Hey there, everyone. Welcome to a walkthrough elementary mathematics. We're going to be looking at the elementarymathematics.org site today, and we're focusing on the planning guides for the individual grade levels. Um, elementarymathematics.org was designed to support teachers with planning and teaching mathematics in elementary. So that's going to be our main focus of our little tour through the site. So when you go to the home page, you'll see click on a grade level below to access planning guides, video, links, and more. So we're just going to click on third grade today. And it takes us to the third grade calendar page. So as you can see, when we scroll down here, you have your pacing calendar over here to the left. And then to the right, you have your units and then the Common Core standards that are addressed in each of the units. So as you can see, we have yellow here and then corresponding yellow on the calendar. So it'll tell you the suggested pacing of each unit you're going to do throughout the year for investigations. So anyway, let's click on one of these units and check it out. So if we just look at Unit 1 for third grade, it automatically brings us up to the unit overview and standards, which is a little bit new if you've seen the site before. We actually listened to a lot of what you guys had to say about the site, and there was too much on one page, so we actually split it up into different sections, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the first section, regardless, is the unit overview and standards. Um, you'll have on the left over here, before you begin the unit, it'll give you some links and some ideas for things to keep in mind before you start the unit, like what the student should know, maybe some ideas for lessons. Here's an article that you can look at. You'll also have the unit at a glance section that gives the suggested dates that we just saw on the calendar. It gives you the pacing, like how many lessons there are. Also, this is huge. It tells you to omit lessons when we need to. Also, it tells you when the new Common Core lessons from investigations were added on, which is nice. So if you look at the bottom, obviously Common Core standards are huge, and that's what we are teaching too. So it gives you the standards that are addressed in the unit, and also there's also going to be this unpacking document link for every single unit, as well as the same overview and standards page for every single unit that you're going to teach. So then let's move on. As you can see, this little button up here takes you back to the third grade calendar we've already been to, but we don't want to do that. So let's look at the planning differentiation button. Okay, let's scroll down a little. Basically, we all have these kids in our classrooms. We have some students who struggle and some students who show mastery. So what we do on this page is we just offer some ideas. For instance, behaviors over here you'll see at the top. Counting on fingers to solve problems. So if you see students in your classroom that exhibit that behavior, it gives you a resource and then a suggestion for how to use it, which is pretty handy. And as you can see, everything in red for the most part on this site is going to be a link that takes you to, for instance, like a video here, and it could just be like a file or a link or something as well. And students who have mastery, same idea, okay? And then if we go back up to the buttons here, the next one is planning each investigation in 10-minute math. For new teachers, hopefully someone will get you comfortable with investigations. 10-minute math is something that's skipped a lot. So that's something we're going to focus on this page. So if we look at notes about each investigation, it's pretty straightforward. It just says investigation 1 and tells you some things to pay attention to, some things to stress. And the same thing with investigation 2 and so on and so forth. There happens to be a video link here. Some of the other pages may have links to other resources that may be valuable for that in particular um, unit. And at the bottom, like I said, 10-minute math is often overlooked, but it's a very, very important thing. You'll have your 10-minute math activity, and in the lower grades, this is called classroom routines, by the way. And then there's a note about it, and then also the Common Core standard that's addressed through this 10-minute math activity. So moving back up here, let's look at teaching standards for math practice. The standards for mathematical practice are very, very important. And this year, as well as previous years, we're going to be focusing on getting those kids having important mathematical conversations and engaging with each other in mathematical discourse. So we're going to try to focus on SMP3, constructing viable arguments, and SMP6, attending to precision. So down here, you're going to find some suggestions on how to do that in each unit. And also up in the brown box in this table, you're going to see a list of words you should hear students using in mathematical conversations. And if we go down to the bottom, some other suggestions on building mathematically proficient students. It gives you some links. If you click on these pages, it'll give you the posters that have the standards for mathematical practice on them. And they're really, really nice to display in your classroom, especially for new teachers who don't have those. Excuse me. Next up on the side buttons here, we have assessing student understanding. So if you look at this page, essentially it just gives you a resource, which could be a task, and then gives you a suggestion for using it, so you can assess student understanding. Also, we have this new thing, most of the units have this, exit ticket suggestions, where it shows you what Common Core standards are addressed, and then it also gives you an idea or a suggestion for an exit ticket that you could use to assess your students' understanding. Next up is digital resources. So if we look at this page and scroll down a little bit, it starts off with interactive student resources. It gives you an actual resource, a suggestion for using it, and then Common Core standards addressed. As you can see, a common theme is to give the Common Core standard that's addressed, because obviously that's very, very important. If we go down here, digital resources for teachers, for instance, it could be a song, and then this is just an example from a Learn Zillion video that shows you how to use the open number line, and it gives you suggestions for strategies you may not be familiar with. Also, suggestion for use and the Common Core standard. And then last but not least in this page is the printable resources for teachers, which is nice. So here we have some task cards, and then there's a subtraction game, suggestions for use once again, and the Common Core standards associated with it. If we go back up here, professional learning for teachers. Obviously, especially for new teachers, you're going to want to uh, get as much information as you can from your your teammates in the PLCs that you're working with. So that's super important. So here are some things that you could do with your team that you plan math with. Professional learning activities are on the left. It gives you an idea. Like before teaching this unit, read page TE, that's from the teacher edition from Investigations 145. And it gives you a little article to read from the teacher's edition or a page to read. And then these are the things you can discuss with your team from that page that you read out of the teacher's edition. And it gives a whole bunch of suggestions and may lead to you coming up with more suggestions of things you need to talk to your team about. Last but not least is teacher-to-teacher files. So on this page, essentially we just have Smartboard and Promethean files that you as teachers have shared with each other, and we've posted in just one convenient location. And also there's teacher-made work, which could be anything from projects to rubrics, just to things that you've shared throughout the years. So if you have any more of that stuff, feel free to share it with us. So we've gone through all these pages, these individual buttons, just for one unit. So if we go back to the third grade calendar using this button, that's just for Unit 1. We could do the same thing for Unit 2, the same thing for Unit 3, and so on and so forth. We're going to go back to the home page quick and just talk a little bit about this. So one of the things that has come up in the past is all this information is awesome, but it's just a lot of information to handle at one time. How can we manage all this information? A couple of the things that Amy LaHue has suggested in the past that she's seen and others of us have seen as well is when you're going to a team planning session, you could have one person take the overview and standards portion, one person take the differentiation page, and so on and so forth. and you can just share what you found from each of the different pages during your team planning meeting. Another idea is each week you could just focus on one or two of these at a time. That way you don't get overwhelmed and you can go more in depth. That's kind of up to you guys how you want to do that. This section of the home page just tells what each little section of each unit is about. And that's it. If you are interested, we can make more of these little videos to help you out. But for now, that's it for how to use the planning guides to teach elementary math. Thanks for all your hard work, and keep doing a great job.